Hello? Hello, Joel? Hi, Joel. Good morning.
There we go. Now I'm on. Hi,
Oh,
how are you?
Good, good. How are you doing? Are you doing the presentation today?
No, just listening in. I believe Troy and Alan are waiting to join.
Okay, okay. I see them. I see Troy. Yeah, let me get Troy. And Alan also. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm going to mute and turn off my video and just listen.
Okay, no. Okay, we have Alan there. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning to you.
Okay, just wonderful one. We're going from one session to another, so it's kind of a tight spot, and we're already live now on eTurboNews and on our social media. And everyone who's joining us, there is a different sign-in. So if you've joined the event just on brand loyalty, we just finished, and you wanted to be part of a live audience, you can still do this in simply going to worldtourismevents.com. And you see this is our next event here about pure air quality in hotels. So it's kind of what we started discussion with brand loyalty. It falls in there, and it'll be an interesting session. If you wanted to watch us just online, that's fine. And we're also going to be archived on Livestream if you don't have a chance to see the full session here. But we're going to start in about 5 minutes.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you. We're in the afternoon, by the way. We're at, what are we, 2:30? Yeah, yep. Close to 2:30.
That's quite Hawaii, but
we'll tell you how the world starts on our side.
Yeah, and we had people in the session before from Jordan, from Bangladesh, so we had all kinds of different time zones.
So in other words, you are 24/7 operation?
Yeah, we are. I mean, myself, I almost feel like it, but my friend from my co-host, Peter Tyler, who should be joining us also, he's Jewish, and he's telling me about a holiday. Here he is. Okay, he can probably explain it, where everyone has to get drunk last night. So and hi, Peter, how are you?
Hey, Peter.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
We're just talking about you. I told them that you wanted me to get drunk last night.
I did. I did. It's a mitzvah.
that light helps, by the way, there, Peter.
Oh, good. So, I've been explaining to him that on Purim, you're supposed to get drunk, and on Friday night, you're supposed to have sex. So,
getting better. Right?
So, in the Christian world, you guys chop down trees and max out your credit cards. That's what you do on Christmas. In the Jewish world, we have sex. We don't have pork, but we do have sex, and you can get drunk on Purim.
There you go.
Just a little bit of caution. We're already live before the word's getting more difficult.
Okay. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah, that will certainly create a crisis. Let's find a.
We have to turn eTurboNews into an all-adult channel. I don't want to do that yet.
Not yet.
How's this for air purifiers? I have a picture of the air.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I put it as a background, the picture of the air for air purifiers. How's that? Is a
That looks
background?
good. It looks like a California forest fire behind you.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah. Perfect.
Why we need your company?
That's right. Absolutely.
A perfect example. We can push that forward. We need your company because the air is not pure, and you guys will give us breathing air, pure air.
That's our mission. That's our mission.
That's a good mission.
Okay, so we got like a minute and a half and we can let people in. I don't expect a huge audience, to be honest with you, live. So it's going to be intimate audience, but we always get a few 10,000 at least watching us over time. And then we're going to combine the archive with the previous event, what was about brand loyalty. So, and specifically hotels and airlines. And I think your subject is very complementary to that.
Absolutely.
Because you only want to stay at brands and airlines, you have clean air, right?
I consider clean air to be a really important essential.
Oh, it's critical. Absolutely. It's
most people really like breathing, and
well, in the past it was optional. Today it's an essential, with COVID.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's sometimes it's overlooked in a lot of ways. When it comes to how actually keep the airs germ free. There's a lot of talk about detecting COVID and keeping the room clean, and but the air is definitely an issue.
Just so you all know, I have another meeting it's 1:30 here in Texas, so at 2:30 in an hour. So about in an hour, if I jump off, it's not because of lack of love. It's just I have to.
I know you love it. So, okay, so we can let people in. There's only, hang on, just a few. So then we can get started. And I see more coming in on the social media. And really, okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start in about 40 seconds or so. And then when we start, I will everyone.
Please come.
What an interesting name.
Okay, so yeah, before we get started, like always, we're going to mute everyone in the beginning, and then you're welcome to ask questions. We can keep this interactive like we always do at the end after we hear from our guest. Okay, so let's get going. Hello and good morning. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from Livestream.travel in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we're doing this in cooperation with Hawaii News Online and eTurboNews. Today's session will be dealing with clean air and hotels. So it's going to be quite interesting, complementary to the session we just finished about brand loyalty. So I think it's very good to have this after our loyalty event, because you want to be loyal to brands that also are responsible when it comes to clean air. Now, host of this session is World Tourism Network. As you all know, we're not a member of World Tourism Network yet. Our organization started almost exactly a year ago. We're actually going to be, I don't really want to use this word celebrating, but we're going to remember our start on March 5th in Berlin at the Grand Hyatt Hotel on the sideline of the ITB trade show. ITB trade show never took place, but our initial event and starting the rebuilding.travel discussion did. In the meantime, we grew to members in 127 countries, and World Tourism Network is the structured format really out of the ongoing rebuilding.travel network. If you're not yet a member for World Tourism Network, simply go to WTN.travel. If you cannot remember WTN, we're also at worldtourismnetwork.org. Either way, and sign up. We'd love to have you either as a member or as a free observer, so we can invite you to upcoming live events and you can be part of this discussion. We have many interest groups for experts in various fields, and we welcome you to be a part of any interest group. I want to recognize actually Professor Snow White, I call her, in Serbia. Welcome, and she actually runs our educational interest group. So you will hear more about what the educational group is doing also at our event on March 5th. Also, before we get started, wanted to remind you we have 2 more exciting events coming up in February, and this is only 2 days left. Tomorrow, we're going to hear from our interest group for WTN about wedding and honeymoons, and it's an event what is very interesting to attend. So don't miss this. You can still sign up at worldtourismevents.com. And then the next day on Sunday, we'll be going to Africa, and we're going to have our greeting session where Africa greets the rest of the world together with the African Tourism Board and Cuthbert Nkubi. That's going to be on Sunday. And then we're getting into the next month and ready for our March 5th anniversary for the rebuilding.travel. Without further delay, and before maybe Peter can introduce our guest, I wanted to give the microphone to my co-host, Peter Tarlow. He's joining us as always in Texas. I don't want to ask him how the weather is. We always do this, but it's too early, you know. I guess it's late. It's already afternoon where you are. But anyways, Peter, hello.
Unmute myself. There I go. Yeah, no, the weather is it's good here, so not much to discuss. But I do think we have really important topics to discuss, more than the Texas weather, which last week made more news than it ought to have. But the whole issue of pure air in people's hotel rooms or in conference centers or wherever people gather. And this is really an essential part of tourism security. We tend to take it for granted, but it really should not be taken for granted, because without pure air, everything else falls apart. People certainly, they get sick, they can't breathe, they don't want to come back. So I have behind me as a background today, it looks like a forest fire from California. And I did that on purpose because I wanted people to, again, emphasize the importance of clean air. And without that, tourism really cannot go through. We're seeing this, the issues in airplanes, where they're talking about new filter systems. We're seeing this in the need for hotels, for conferences, for schools. One of the big issues that's now facing many parts of the world since COVID has come through is, do you have proper air filtration systems in the public schools or in any school building? It doesn't have to be public, it could be public or private. But all these are interlocked, and they're one of the building blocks of life. So we need to have pure food, pure water, pure air, and without that, nothing else goes forward. So today our speaker, Alan Wozniak, I hope I got your last name correct there, is going to begin to present to us all of the needs of what his company is doing and the science behind the need for pure air. And that will lead into hopefully a really good discussion about the interaction between tourism and good, breathable, healthy air. So Alan, the floor is yours. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Perfect. By the way, speaking of tourism, I'm from the Tampa Bay area, which has many beaches along its shore. And we were rated by I'm not sure what tourism group, but we were rated the #1 beach in the world. Second was, I think, Honolulu, Jurgen, where you're from. So yeah, tourism is big, and that was heavily promoted. And obviously, being in the in this region, we got chosen as one of the top beaches. But Jurgen, thank you very much for inviting me to this broadcast. I'm going to start with this was a news update recently by Honeywell. And Honeywell stated that the results, this is a global survey that was done, the global study on workers' perception and feelings on health and safety of their workplace, which includes hotels and airports and buildings. The findings, it was a 2020 building occupant survey report that showed a staggering majority of the US workforce, 71%, does not feel completely safe in their employees' buildings. They wanted to say that the number is even higher for those working remotely, 82%, who are especially skeptical about the safety of work sites. In fact, nearly 3 in 10 remote workers, 29%, would look for a new job rather than to a site that they did not implement necessary safety measures. So that's staggering. I mean, that kind of statistical data, people going back to the workforce is critical. And how do you obtain good indoor quality? You have to start with defining what is good indoor quality and how can we as an environmental consulting firm or anybody convince those that are going back to their buildings or hotels, their office spaces and so forth, feel comfortable and confident that the building is safe. And I allude to a analogy, which is a medical one, that if you or I or anybody weren't feeling well, the first thing we would do would be to visit our doctor. The doctor would go through a battery of questions. He would go, or she would go through a battery of tests, define what the problem is and where the hurts are, and then provide a prescriptive recommendation on how to get better. And that's a standard that's done millions of times a day across the globe. Unfortunately, in this pandemic, what happens is oftentimes most companies, they don't understand the dynamics of the building and what makes it sick or COVID issues, and they throw basically products and chemicals and other types of solutions at the building. And I've asked contractors, well, how do you know what you do is in fact working and working effectively? And they hesitate for a few seconds and, well, the light's working. And I'll rephrase the question and say, no. How do you know that what you are doing to the building, which is you're telling them that you're improving the indoor quality, how do you know that it's working and clearing the air? Same blank, face that they have, and they don't have an answer. So we're in a knee-jerk reaction to COVID today, and many facilities that are buying things that don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and they're buying the what, meaning the product, and quite frankly, it may or may not do what they're doing. In fact, it could be a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging condition. We have some clients today where, because of the COVID, they've modified the ventilation system in their buildings, their universities, their office buildings, their courthouses, and they added more outdoor air. Well, the unit, the HVAC system wasn't designed to remove the latent moisture that they're asking it to do. Subsequently, weeks and months later, they're finding a microbial nightmare inside the building with mold on chairs, on walls, on doors, on furniture, etc. So a lot of the issues that we're faced with need to be effectively diagnosed. And using the analogy of the doctor, we would be very apprehensive if we went to that same doctor and he says, hey, Jerrigan, I know what's wrong with you. Let's, without asking any questions, without taking any tests, and said, let's go, I'm going to perform surgery now. You would say, well, whoa, time out. What's wrong with me? Where's my questions? Where's my battery of tests? And you would run out of that office as fast as you could, right? That would be a normal response. And that would be a form of malpractice. In the case of indoor air quality, our suggestion as a consulting firm is to first diagnose the building like one would a patient. Understand what is good indoor quality, understand what the baseline conditions are. Once those baseline conditions are developed, whether it's a hospital, a school, a hotel, whatever the condition is, then one can provide a prescriptive recommendation as to how to get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's absolutely typical medicine that you would want to do. So what you're basically arguing is that you are presenting yourself as doctors of air quality.
Correct.
That's a nice way to do it. And I do want to emphasize, when you use the word indoor, you're talking about indoor air, indoor ventilation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Indoor, yeah.
I wanted to make sure everybody understood you're referring to air quality indoors versus air quality out of doors.
Absolutely. Big difference. In fact, people will say, well, let's go outside and get a breath of fresh air. That's a misnomer. And the reason why, we have pollen, we have insect detritus, we have fibers, we have pollen throughout the environment, mold spores. And when we, as a consulting firm, we will inevitably take an outdoor sample in each of the studies that we've done, which we've done over 12,000 studies across the country, covering over 800 million square feet. So we've done a lot. And the outdoor air will be about 100 times worse than the indoor air. Yeah. And you say, well, why is that? How is that? Well, think about it. We are conditioning and filtering the indoor air. We don't condition and filter the outdoor air. So subsequently,
when they have very high problems in the air, you will be told during areas of smog or pollution, please stay indoors, don't go outdoors. Older people or young children shouldn't go outdoors. Perfect example, we all know most weather forecasts today give you air quality outside also, which means that there are problems.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. That we have outdoor pollution studies all across the world, and it's being reported every day as to high pollutant, high pollen, high particulate, PM 2.5. But we're not being told what the indoor air quotient is of indoor environments, and it's critical, the fact that we breathe, thousands of gallons of air a day per person. That's a huge amount of air that we are breathing, whether it's good air or bad air.
So if you convert this to the COVID threat right now, do you say you can make the air more desirable for someone to be indoors than outdoors?
Absolutely. And it starts with a baseline. You have to understand, where are we today? What is the condition of the indoor environment today? And that includes a number of different assays, meaning your microbial, your bacterial, your mycology, which is your fungi, your particulate, your PM 2.5, PM 10, 1 micron, 3.3 microns, your VOCs, your temperature, your humidity. And with all those, there's a lot of thousands of other constituents that constitute the indoor environment, the indoor air quality environment. So understanding first what the baseline conditions are gives us like a doctor would a patient. He takes a blood sample and he's going to compare us to what's considered to be normal, right? That's you have a HDLs, your LDLs, your triglycerides, et cetera, and we're compared to what's considered to be normal. And that's what we want to push towards. We want to push towards a good indoor quality condition, not a bad indoor quality and not a pristine one, because quite frankly, zero mold doesn't exist within a building, whether it's a hotel, a hospital, a university building, your homes. It does not exist. It's everywhere. It's the level of contaminant and the type of contaminant that would be of concern, and one of which is the COVID. Today, many labs, including ours, in fact, I think our lab was the first lab to provide that, but we provide sampling for COVID-19 in air, as well as surfaces via an RNA PCR method. So we can provide clearance of a building, health, hotel, hospital, whatever the case is, for the client so that they feel there's a degree of high confidence that they are that they have a somewhat of a COVID-free environment and they're not running around with a potential issue. And we typically will evaluate the touch points of that building, the most common, as well as the air. Recently, a study was done at University of Oregon in a hospital, and it was the COVID-19 virus was isolated in 25% of the samples in the hospital HVAC system. Well, you ask, how does it get there? Well, its molecular size is small, in the 0.3 and smaller microns. It literally went through the ventilation system, through a circulation. We design, as mechanical engineers, we design HVAC systems to change the air 4 to 6 times an hour. Yeah. Well, a small molecular sized particle, that's going to become airborne and recirculate and isolate within the ventilation system.
So, we put these into somewhat lay terms or tourism terms. It sounds to me like really two areas that it's important for you to be working in, or I'm sure you are working in, is one, the ventilation systems within large buildings, such as
right.
hotels or apartments, etc. And two, some way of filtering it so that if someone has COVID on one floor of an apartment building and sneezes, that doesn't go into their ventilation system and then infect the entire building, one way or the other. How do you help a hotel? Tell us a little bit about, if I were this big hotel and I had 500 rooms or 1,000 rooms, tell us about the process. How would you start? So here I am, I know nothing. I know that I have to protect my guests, and there I am. And I call you in.
Great question. Our first response, which is the first response, is to recommend a baseline study, evaluate the indoor air quality. And the reason we would want to do that primarily is we want to make sure we're not going in and trying to address a singular event, meaning a COVID, and have a hemorrhaging condition in our hands, and we've only addressed the COVID. An example, there was, a dormitory that we went into, actually addressed the issue, found some significant concerns, building envelope-wise, HVAC, the indoor quality conditions were less than acceptable, though the university decided to just put in some portable air purifiers, and that's obviously at their discretion. So in our situation was, you got a hemorrhaging condition here. You need not just to put a Band-Aid on it. Let's look at it as a more holistic approach. We get a call 2 months later, and guess what? Two or three of the students came down with a microbial lung infection, and they needed to, in an emergency, which cost them more, fix the problem that was there.
So, Alan, I'm just taking it at a very simple level. It sounds to me, but listening to you, what really large buildings such as hotels or public buildings need to do is have you come in before there's a problem.
Right.
So that you have a baseline prior, just like when people come in the world of medicine, the doctor really wants to see you when you're well, not when you're sick. Because when you're well, that gives the baseline to know what's wrong and begin the diagnosis. So it sounds, using that medical analogy, the first thing we want to think about is having you come in, or whomever, for a yearly checkup, a yearly inspection before there's a problem. Then afterwards, have you come in to try to diagnose that problem. and then from there come up with solutions on how to fix the problem, but not make matters worse, because that could be the other side. When you're trying to fix one problem, you may end up with another problem. Is my simplification of your world make any sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's spot on. In the case, if to get into the corrective features, obviously we would start with a baseline to determine it, like the doctor would the patient, what their baseline conditions are before a prescriptive recommendation. But some of the prescriptive recommendation could look like this. For example, you want to first, if they're there, you want to neutralize pathogens. Second, you want to use proper, effective purification technologies. Quite frankly, there are thousands and thousands of new technologies that are out there that are totally unproven. But you look unproven. And though the brochures that they use to market themselves will show you that it does COVID, removal, it does HEPA this and this, and it's totally bogus. Right now, there's such a wave, I call it the wild, wild west of indoor air quality. There's so much out there that it's to the layperson, it's totally confusing. We as a consulting firm have consulted to hotels and school districts and whatnot to dummy it down, because they're so overwhelmed with so many things and products. And there are a lot of good products. There are a lot of bad products. In fact, we have a unique advantage. We have a lab in-house and a chamber. And that chamber testing, we actually have clients send their product to us to perform what's called an efficacy study. And we inoculate the room with known pathogens and allergens and particulate, and we determine what the kill rate is in time of that particular product, and it kill what it says it does. So we've been super busy in that side as well. But the use of quality air purification technology is critical, and there's many things like HEPA filtration. There's needlepoint bipolar ionization. There's charcoal filtration. There's antimicrobics that are used and electrostatic precipitators. There's just a lot of different types. But like a doctor in a patient, the doctor's going to prescribe a specific solution, and not all air purifiers are going to be the best fit for the particular client.
So again, I think you hit an important point that maybe needs just a little bit of clarification for the layman, and that is that you listed all these various techniques that can be used. Now, if somebody came up to me and said, do you want to use charcoal filtration or this filtration and that filtration, I would kind of look at them dumbfounded, because I really don't know the advantages and disadvantages. So maybe for the audience, it would be helpful if you could just mention one or two of them and then simply say, this has this advantage or this disadvantage, or the cost is you don't get your money's worth for the cost, or it filters this type of air, pollution from forest fires, but it doesn't do a good job with COVID or whatever it happens to be. But, kind of give us an overview of what we call filtration for dummies. In other words, make it easy for people to understand what you're saying.
Well, a good point. Three of the main ones that you will see quite often, and again, there's so much variation with each of the three, but one is HEPA filtration. We probably have all known what HEPA filtration is. That's the highest level filtration one can purchase, though if you were a homeowner or a hotel or a business owner, the air purification unit you would have to have it mechanically designed effectively, because it's so dense. I mean, you're talking about a 12-inch filter that has thousands of square feet of filter surface area that will restrict the airflow going in the building. So you may have put that in, but you're going to cause a secondary problem, and you're going to be burning out motors. very at a rapid pace. So there's a cause-effect relationship. There are a lot of good HEPA filters in many products that are extremely useful, but you have to make sure that they are true HEPA filters. Another one is Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization. Basically,
that's a lot of words.
Yeah, Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization, NBPPI. And what that is basically it's just shooting naturally. If you were in the mountains, the normal level of ions in the air, positive and negative, would be about 1,000. As you get closer to the city, you might be in the 400 to 500. As you get into a building, you may be 5, 10 or less. And ions are good because they're attacking any pollutants that are in the atmosphere. So what the objective with Needlepoint Bipolar is to produce them naturally or unnaturally in a electric field within a box, air purification box, or using the air handler as the air conveyance mechanism, and to produce those in large quantities, literally in the millions of ions. And because the pollutant level in buildings are so significant that you want a lot of ions. And ions don't last. They last for 15 seconds, and they'll either attack something and move it on or kill it, or they'll pass on. They'll die. So the Needlepoint is very good, but again, it has its limitations, like HEPA does. And to be frank, there's no silver bullet. There's just not one product that's going to solve all your issues. And the third one, in technology-wise, again, you got your HEPA, your bipolar ionization, and I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought on the third one. But those are your two primary purification devices that will be very helpful to building owners. But again, if you do just that and you install these in an air purification device, the difficulty is you don't know that you're providing clean air yet. An example, excuse me, if you have a ventilation system that is extremely dirty, and we are unfortunately in a deferred maintenance, 20-year deferred maintenance environment. It's bad. I mean, we've been in buildings and hospitals and schools and hotels that, they just haven't. They just haven't, because of not anybody's fault, but just because it didn't exist. And so if you have a ventilation system that's super dirty and is moving air 4 times an hour, 6 times an hour within the building, that air purifier you got in the corner of your room is doing very little good to fix the problem. It'd be like taking aspirin for cancer. It's not going to work. Or it'll be limited. It might be a limited value in a short period of time. So those are things that the technology with air purification systems are very critical to producing a good indoor environment. The other we just touched upon is the hygienic cleaning of ventilation systems. Again, notorious for not being maintained. We're dealing with so many buildings. I mean, think about what we've done, 12,000 buildings in the last 36 years, over 800 million square feet. That's a boatload of buildings, and we have firsthand experience, what I term being in the bowels of the building. And we see what's going on. And it's not a pretty sight, quite frankly. So that's why we really focus with our clients on addressing the real problem and not just trying to superficially treat it and not knowing what you're doing and why you do what you do, kind of thing.
Yeah, and most of us, of course, this is a very unknown territory for most of us. Usually the average person knows in your home, you change the filter for your air conditioning once a month, and that's what they know. So if someone were coming up to you, what would be 3 wise questions that a person could ask an expert like you that would make sense and be understandable?
Are we referring to more on the hospitality side, or?
Let's talk about hospitality, because this is we broadcast toward the world of hospitality. So I'm a hotel owner, a restaurant owner, or an amusement park owner, whatever it happens to be. I own a convention center, and I call you in and I say, I don't know, but I think there's something wrong, but I don't know what, what questions would you hope that I would ask you?
If I understand the question correctly, the questions I would ask is, what have you done? If I'm the person coming into the business, and I want to know what have you done to better the indoor quality? Is that the?
I know. How about the other way around? In other words, you're coming, you're going to talk with me. I'm the owner of the hotel or the restaurant, and I say to you, sir, I think we should have you here, but quite honestly, I don't know what to say. If you were my guide, you were my person whispering in my ear, what questions would you whisper into my ear that I should ask an expert like you?
Well, in order to, obviously the key factor would be, are you concerned with the existing condition of your facilities? What steps have you taken in order to provide the assurity to your guests that you are providing high quality indoor air? What mechanisms are being procured to manage the indoor quality over time, and not just today or last week or last month, but today and yesterday, today and tomorrow? So those would be some of the questions I would be asking the business as to, what are you doing today that's going to make an effect on the building? Because at the end of the day, today in today's society, what's happened if we don't adhere to new standards of practice? And I say, there was a standard of care yesterday, and post-COVID, there's a new standard of care that's changing almost daily, as you can see with CDC protocols and others. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the result will be litigation risks, because the question is, what have you done to provide a safe working condition? And if you don't have clear, concise, specific answers, protocols as to what you have done, then the potential cost of litigation or potential of lawsuits happening are extremely good. I believe this is going to be the next ambulance chasers of the legal profession. It's low-hanging fruit.
No.
And yeah.
No, and that's definitely a very good point. But I'm wondering if you see it. Of course, you laid out if you were a hotel owner or you own a building, there are options. What about someone who lives in a building, someone who has a timeshare, or even I live in an apartment building, and God knows what the owner association is doing, in regards to air quality. How can I protect my closed environment? Are these regular air purifiers? Is it a good idea, or is it something that doesn't make sense? Or are there solutions on both spectrums, like as an apartment occupant or a hotel room occupant when you travel, there's something you should buy? And I saw these mobile type of air purifiers on the market before.
Yeah, good question, Jürgen. A building is very similar to a home. It's conditioned, it's filtered, it has 4 walls, a roof, Just the conditions are a little bit different. One's being worked in and one's being lived in. The end of the day, the indoor quality is the biggest concern. And how do you achieve that in a residential unit, or a in this case would be a hotel room condition? I would start with looking at the ventilation system, seeing how that's operating. Is the unit running optimally? Rather than throwing in an air purifier, which may help, we don't know. But start with the HVAC system and its operation. If it's not running well, you're going to have microbial issues that you don't want, that will make COVID sound like like it's nothing. So you want to make sure that your ventilation system is running well. Number one is environmentally clean, hygienically, and the second one would be, look, what can I do to augment my HVAC system to increase the filtration of the unit? And there's ways to do that with added filtration at the central unit. You can't put a Hepa filtration in, but you can put in other devices that would be effective. And then going into the building, the home, looking at potential purification devices that are effective in removing known pathogens, known viruses, and so forth. And then potentially an effective topical cleaning method that one is using on a routine basis to make sure that the touchable surfaces within the home room environment are being kept in an effective way.
So Alan, but I'm coming just to a hotel for one day, so I can't check their ventilation system.
True.
And I don't even know where it is. I bought a hotel room. I'm staying there one night. Let's assume you're staying in a hotel for one night. What do you do? Not breathe?
Well,
You breathe?
I would ask when I'm booking my room, I would ask the before I book a room, because I've been in, and I'm sure y'all have been the same thing. I've gone to hotels that I walk in, and these are high end, 2 or 3, 4 star hotels, 5 star, and I get my key, I go to my room, and I take a deep breath, and it smells musty. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's just coincidence. I walk around and no, this is a musty room. I call down, I'm sorry, but the room's musty. I couldn't get me another room. And they get me another room, it smells musty. I've been in some hotels where I've literally had to leave, go to another hotel because it was a systemic problem within the hotel. In the COVID condition, what I would ask is, what are your best practices to maintain a COVID-free environment? For example, what records are you posting? Do you do distancing? Are you masking? Is there hand sanitization stations? Is there traffic flow portions? Is there plexiglass dividers stations at the front desk, the restaurants, the concierge? Are there temperature screening stations that we can monitor ourselves walking into the establishment? Can I check in virtually? I don't want to give people my credit card. I want to be able to walk in. And then what type of technology are you using, Mr. Hotel, to assure of good indoor quality? And let them share with me what they've done. A lack of enhanced cleaning protocols is a concern. A lack of adoption by a association for a safe stay protocol is another example. Another issue would be if I were to walk in and there are dusty floors and walls. Obviously, housekeeping is not at its maximum, and topical cleaning plan. So those are a series of questions that I would ask in advance. So I know it would be an unusual conversation maybe with the concierge or the front desk, but it's one that we need to ask today. you know,
Nice girls, you have to ask it. You're right.
you have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jürgen,
you're-
do any of our listeners have questions they want to ask?
Yeah, just please raise the hand, your hand, no problem. We'd be happy to give you the microphone.
Somebody's raising her hand.
I just wanted to share something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I, in my role as facilities director, and also I'm an energy consultant and sustainable operation for buildings. I just would like to share my experience because I think with everything else, especially within the COVID time, yeah, we have to look into a holistic approach. There is not 100% safety from HVAC system, is not 100% safety with masks, and because not everybody is doing that, buildings are not well maintained. We all know that, yeah. So there was already a lack of really keeping the buildings up to date, yeah, and with the maintenance and the investment that is needed. So that was a lack that was before. So we cannot catch up and make everything 100% really safe for people just from one point of view, yeah. So it is a holistic subject that we have to address, and there is no 100% safety in any area. What I think, though, for future we need to do is really being prepared to continue with the same holistic approach. So one, when I address my HVAC, doesn't mean that I can now don't wash my hands or don't wear the mask or don't do the social distancing. And of course, the self-awareness, because the people's behavior is in every area that we are in. If it's the mechanical engineering part of the building, if it's how they enter the building, how you want to flow the people in or out of the building, yeah. And a lot of times is also that is why the decrease of the amount of people coming in and out of the building is also something that is very important. And I think by opening slower, we are thinking more long-term in order to really keep the operations going, maybe at a lower level of profit, yeah, but then on a safer level. So that I think that is also something that we need to understand, because you cannot make air conditioning so safe without air exchange, or airflow. So that cannot happen. Yeah. So you can use the best filters, but then you are basically slowing down the air transport and the air exchange between the outside and indoor and outdoor air. Yeah. So these are things. And it's sometimes I can, from my experience, it's a kind of also shifting responsibilities. Who did that or who does that? But we have to understand that there is really not only one solution. There are a lot of solutions, and nothing is really will be 100% safe. So I think that is, and we really have to continue doing all of the aspects that we are doing for probably another year, so that everybody, and especially for tourism, I think as we are seeing that hotels are opening and travels are going forth and back, but the vaccination is not even at a 20% worldwide. Yeah, so that's a concern. Yeah, so I think this is something that we all have to really look in all areas and make sure that we continue doing what we started with. Yeah, and embrace the changes and improvements.
No, definitely. Gisa, some good points. Just Gisa has been on a lot of our events, and thank you for that. She's actually based here in Hawaii, and I think you are running a consulting operation for global energy, clean energy, and so forth. I see global citizens, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. I'm just wondering, when you look through hotel brochures, for example, you see several rating systems why a hotel is 5-star or why a hotel is 4-star or 2-star. Do you think it'll be a good idea to add a rating system, or is there a rating system when it comes to air quality a hotel could adopt? So it's not only in saying, okay, we're a 5-star hotel because of our service, but we're a 5-star or a 3-star hotel because of the air quality. Are there any global standards or national standards hotels could adopt?
That's a great point. And just to go back to a little bit to Gisha's statement, yeah, holistic approach to indoor quality is critical. That's our sort of our mantra over the years has been a threefold stool that it discusses energy, comfort, and health. And all three are critical, because if you focus on any one of the three, they tend to be, they may fail. So, looking at that as a holistic approach is what we advise our customers all the time. And then, yes, lowering occupancy is good. We're not too far from Walt Disney World, and they've taken that advice of 20%, 25%, as have done large stadiums. The Super Bowl is an example. Oh, by the way, we won the Super Bowl this year. Thank you very much. But yes,
How was the air quality of the Super Bowl?
The air quality, we were involved in that. We watched it like everybody else did. But actually, I was there. But my daughter had bought me one of those little placards of just my face. So I was somewhere in the building. I don't know where. But from that point of view, it was good. I survived it, I guess. I may be in the dumpster right now. But to answer your question, Jurgen, there are ratings, and it's being developed as we speak. I'm sorry.
No, there was some.
But they are ratings, and the best way in 10 years ago or 5 years ago, the only way we could really give you a continuous rating, an effective one, would be to study the building every month, and that's expensive. Doing your baseline studies. Today, though, we have devices that one is called the IQ Guard, that is installed in the building, that manages temperature, humidity, CO2, VOCs, PM2.5, PM10, 0.3 microns formaldehyde, and a number of others. So that's a real-time, every 5-second monitoring device. And what that does, there are some organizations like Reset and some others, Well Building Institute, that they're coming up with ratings system that they're suggesting take that data and put it on the front, a kiosk, if you will, and let people know that you are in a good indoor air quality building. That's a good way to manage that, but you have to monitor it. And you heard the old cliche, you can't manage what you can't measure. This is true today than it's ever been.
Now, is there, and this is a very good point, and I think every hotel should consider getting such a system. But I'm wondering, is there a questionnaire? Let's say we have the safari operator in Africa watching us, or someone who may have a really difficulties to get these system in. But is there a questionnaire you could, or anyone could provide, that would kind of indicate what a hotel is doing or not doing in order to keep the air clean?
In the future, yes, but you'd have to be monitoring it. And that's something, actually, that's a really good point. And to Gissa's point, that being able to go online, you're going to evaluate what hotel you want to go to, and if they have this, if you will, clean house, seal of approval, look to it, but it's in a green, yellow, red kind of condition. And if that kiosk is sharing with us the summary of all the environmental pollutants, shows that it's well below the normal, then that building would have a nice, clean bill of health kind of environment. We do this today with our buildings, with nursing homes, fitness centers, office buildings, churches, where we literally will provide a certification that goes onto their door along with a placard that shows, here's the things we've communicated to those people going into the building. Here's the things that the facility has done to enhance the indoor quality, to protect the building occupants from COVID and other environmental potential hazards. And that's a good thing to help manage and measure and provide results that show that the indoor environment is being maintained and in an effective way. And not just throwing a air purifier in the corner and, oh, that's what, we're doing something, that doesn't, today that doesn't cut it.
I think this is an important point, and maybe would ask Professor Snowhite in Serbia, who runs our educational group, to think about adding this type of subject to our reach out for education, to educate people in the hospitality industry, anyone who has to deal with indoor activities, to be aware of it. Don't you think so, Professor Snowhite?
Yes, I think that this is very, very important subject, and people don't know much about it, really, because especially in this nowadays, I can say, when we are always thinking about the COVID, and as you said, going out for a fresh air, but actually out is not a fresh air. I think that this is a very good subject for the educational purpose, not only for the hotel industry, but also for tour operators, travel agencies, and for the students at the universities, because I'm not sure that we have any kind of a subject which is connected with these special problems. We have
especially
something
for restaurants
about the climate, about sun rising, sun falling, but about the pollution of the air at the tourist universities for tourism, College of Tourism. We don't have many subjects which are dealing with this problem. So I think that this will be a very, what I can say, it is a very good idea to have this subject on our educational purposes.
Yeah,
that would be excellent. Yeah.
There's a linkage with Alan. I don't know if Alan will be joining WTN, but there would be a good linkage for educational outreach for the hospitality group. And then many of our members that are working within the hospitality group, whether it's hotel, restaurants, and so forth, to know. And thank you for attending, Professor Snowhite. I know it's like 9:25 in the evening where you are right now, or 10:20.
Yes, something like that. But it's okay. I just start working, typing one book, and it's okay for me. I will continue working all evening and night.
Fresh air outside, because you have a lot of snow there, right? In Serbia right now?
Not now, believe me or not, it was plus 18 today.
Wow.
Normally for February, here in Serbia is minus 15, but today we have plus 15. It's like a spring. And
So it's
not
like-
good for health.
So, Professor, last week in Texas, we had Serbian weather. And this week,
Oh, I
you're
see.
having Texas weather. So,
Yes,
I-
we have a Texas weather. We send it to you and you send it to us.
yeah, to be quite honest, I think most people here would rather have plus 17 than minus 17. So,
I
most
believe
Tex-
so.
most
I
people in
believe-
Texas don't like cold. So,
But
we're
here
all
you-
for global warming.
Normally winter start here a lot of snow start in November, middle of November until the end of February. It is normal weather, but last year and this year we had, let's say, only in the mountains, yes, we had a lot of snow, which was very good for ski season, but in the cities, just maybe 20 days of snow. That was all.
Oh, it's too much. We had the other way around. It's normally about 20 degrees Celsius all winter long. And the last 2 years, it's gone down as low as 17 below zero. So,
Wow.
so it's been too cold here, but luckily the cold has gone away and it's now about 20 degrees Celsius or about 80 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Ups the air quality. And so we thank Alan.
Yeah, so knows, and I'm looking at Ala Moana Beach Park here in Honolulu, one of our second largest beach parks in the Waikiki area, and a lot of people in the water, a lot of sailing boats out there.
Go ahead, rub it in.
Well, I think, yeah, we have not so much concern with air pollution in the middle of ocean. Yeah, so we have no manufacturing, we have nothing. So I think that is, beside them, maybe sometimes the Kona winds bringing if the volcano is active, I think we're fine here.
Was that a volcano? Was that a volcano I heard, or was that water?
Well, the volcano is on a different island. We are luckily we have Diamond's Head, but it's a dead volcano for the last 100,000, a million years. So we're lucky here, so we don't have an active volcano here.
Well, good.
It's better not to. They're actually not fun. And nor are they good for air pollution. I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody. I want to wish everybody a really wonderful weekend. And I want to thank Alan for a really interesting topic about which most of us have no idea. And so this was really going into a new territory for many of us and learning things that most of us think, well, the good air quality and bad air quality, that's about it. And you really opened the door for all sorts of new information and for really ideas for us to think about. And yes, I agree with the professor that in the academic world, we never teach about this in tourism courses in universities, and yet they are important. I'm thinking about how many smells and issues must take place in restaurants. And how do we keep, once upon a time, we divided restaurants into smoking and non-smoking. And that was it.
Right.
That was the totality of our ability to distinguish. And wow, the world has changed radically. And so it's not just, and I want to emphasize that it's not just an issue of COVID. It's an issue of secondhand smoke or third-hand smoke. It's filtration from all sorts of other COVID diseases, including the common cold, which is highly spreadable by just one person sneezing. And these are all issues that touch every part of the tourism industry. So, Alan, thank you for really a very insightful presentation.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for putting up with bye-bye. And I know Jürgen's going to continue the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're pretty
Thanks,
much,
Peter.
we just actually are already over time now, the first minute, but so I wanted to add to Peter's comment. This was very interesting, but if anyone has a question, you should raise it now or hold your peace, or you can do this also, of course, later. Feel free to email us, and we'd be happy to forward this also to Alan if there's any more questions. And I'm sure we're going to continue this discussion in our educational group and also in our hospitality group. And this and our other event from earlier, we're going to combine it in our archive for today. So you're going to see this playing on eTurboNews, Livestream, Aviation, and all our various channels for the next 24 hours, maybe even a little bit longer, because we're going into a weekend. And then it's going to be archived on livestream.travel and hopefully kept alive. Also a fascinating opportunity maybe to talk about it or the subject altogether at our anniversary on March 5th. So see what how we can also include this subject. I found it very educational. And yes, Alan, I'm familiar with Tampa, beautiful area. I've stayed at the Grand Hyatt at the airport a number of times. I've good friends in St. Petersburg. And I think St. Petersburg was actually the beach you mentioned, what beat our Kailua Beach Park here in Hawaii a number of times. sometimes we're number one and sometimes you're number one. So it's both good, and it's a
Top
beautiful
10
area.
is top 10 is good. Either way.
Yes. But I wanted to thank you and everyone else for joining us today, and it has been a pleasure having you as a guest, Alan, and thanks for your input, and hopefully we can continue this conversation. And I give you the last word.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's an excellent idea, Professor, to look at adding a indoor quality segment into the College of Tourism. It's not going to go away. They need to understand, it's a whole nother world out there, and we've all seen it with buildings being closed down, restaurants, hospitals, schools, universities, and it unfortunately, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So I think educating is critical. We are a very heavy proponent, whether it's myself or some of our doctors on staff or building scientists. We would more than happy to help build a curriculum in any College of Tourism's unit. We have actually written Dr. Sahay, who is our Director of Lab Services, co-wrote a chapter in a college manual book that is purchased internationally on indoor quality and what is baseline conditions. So this is in the College of Microbiology of some universities. So those are things that we would love to help out. I think, again, education is critical, and whatever we can do to help facilitate that, we're here. And Jürgen, to your comment, if someone can send me information on the WTM program, we would be interested in joining as an organization.
Perfect. Yeah, we would definitely welcome you, and I'd be happy to send it, or simply go to wtn.travel and click on join, and we'd be happy to get you into the group, and then talk to you also in the future with upcoming sessions within some of our more engaged interest groups. We're actually just forming. I mean, you have to know WTN, even though we're 1 year old in our rebuilding discussion, but as an organization, we only existed since December 1st. So we're brand new, we're building this, and people like you are essential for this global discussion. Well, thank you, everyone. And I can only say aloha from this part of the world. And hopefully we see you tomorrow when we're going to be talking about wedding and honeymoons with our wedding and honeymoon interest group. That'll be another interesting session for anyone to attend, because this world has changed. I mean, some say we now get married in a virtual world. Not all true, but more tomorrow. Good night or good morning. 10:30 here in the morning. I know for Snow White in Serbia, as I said, 9:30 at night. And I see others here sending me a message from Bangladesh. It must be after midnight. So it's a small world after all. And next time we're going to visit Alan in Disney. You're a little bit far from Disney, but close enough to get there.
We'll go.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.